I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Here on the MeidasTouch Network, we focus on issues impacting our democracy in the United States. We talk about issues affecting democracies across the world, and we also focus on reporting about things that are taking place in different states in our country that the large media networks are not reporting on. And here is a critical story that the large media networks are not reporting on that we are bringing you here on the MeidasTouch Network. And that is something that took place in West Virginia in their joint standing committee on Judiciary on Monday. And there was an amendment that was being proposed to try to change the existing law that deals with forcible sexual intercourse under the existing West Virginia statute, which has an exemption for people who are married. In other words, it permits forcible sexual touching, forcible sexual contact during a marriage. And let me read for you the law right now, and then I want to show you what was actually taking place where the Republican members of the West Virginia Senate were fighting to keep this exemption in place. And we have video of that we will be showing you here on the MeidasTouch Network. So the current sexual offense law in West Virginia, section 61-8B-1 states the following. Sexual contact means any intentional touching, either directly or through clothing of the breasts, buttocks, anus, or any part of the sex organs of another person, or intentional touching of any part of another person's body by the actor's sex organs, where the victim is not married to the actor, and the touching is done for the purpose of gratifying the sexual desire of either party. And so here there is language, the exemption. You heard me when I read the law. It says where the victim is not married. In other words, where a victim is married in West Virginia, it would permit this unwanted, forcible sexual touching in the state of West Virginia. And so what occurred at the West Virginia Senate before this joint Judiciary Standing Committee is a local prosecutor from Monongalia, Attorney Perry DeChristopher, the prosecuting attorney from Monongalia County, spoke about the exemption and the importance of removing this exemption from the law in West Virginia, amending the law so that it doesn't provide an exemption for marriage. In other words, people who are married can also be convicted if they engage in forcible sexual touching. Yet the Republicans in West Virginia fought very hard to stop that from taking place. They wanted to preserve the exemption and not to amend it and remove it from the statute. So what you are going to see is the female who is making the argument in favor of removing this exemption is Attorney Perry DeChristopher, and the man who you will see fighting to keep the exemption and saying these ridiculous things, dangerous and harmful and sickening things, is Republican Robert Carnes, who is a Republican member of the West Virginia Republican Party and a member of the Senate there. So let's play this clip just so you have context of who's who in this video. Again, the Republicans are trying to keep the exemption, and here you have the prosecutor saying that this exemption for marriage should be removed. Play the clip.
If we just put a check box for each spouse on a marriage license, I consent to being touched by my spouse. And then that would be no longer implied. It would be a very explicit consent. And if they didn't check that box, I suspect they probably wouldn't have a marriage, but would that solve your problem?
I don't think you can consent to be the victim of a crime in perpetuity.
Well, I don't either, but I don't think this is a crime.
But forcible sexual contact is exempt from the
Well,
marital.
but we've already established that forcible sexual contact is no different than touching a stranger on the street or touching your wife. They're both forcible sexual contact. Is that correct?
It's very similar and the same as holding your spouse down, sitting on their chest and grabbing their genitals. Yes, sir, it is. But if you did that in your marriage, it would not be a crime.
And you want to eliminate the distinction
Yes,
by
sir.
saying that even if I don't hold her down, if I just happen to walk up while she's doing the dishes and put my hand in a bad spot, that could be a crime. You want that to be the case inside of marriage. Do you want to make it a crime to do inside of a marriage what would be a crime to do outside of a marriage? Even though married partners assume, because of it's part of the implied contract of marriage, that those kinds of things are going to be okay.
Husband and wife have intercourse. 2 days later, they have a major heated argument. How could we write into code something to prevent an innocent person from going to jail, pay some type of compensation or have some retribution because of what was now proven to be a false report? Or
That person may be found not guilty, but that doesn't diminish the fact that that may have actually happened, but can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I certainly wouldn't want to create any situation where a victim was reluctant to report that type of circumstance for fear that they may get fined or penalized in some way for their merely reporting what they think happened to them, even if it isn't able to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court.
I don't know if there is an answer to this. I'm just asking for your wisdom
Right.
to try to be able to prevent innocent people over bad arguments going to jail.
I understand that. I understand your concern, but I don't think we should hold victims in a marital setting to a higher standard than we would a sexual victim in any setting.
There are crimes that are committed, whether they're proven or not. They're still a crime. You may not be found guilty of the crime, but you're still guilty of the crime.
But the marital exemption doesn't allow anyone to present any evidence because the exemption exists for even the arrest of the
I
offense.
think the exemption exists for good reason. Thank you.
So following this situation, you had the Democrats, the Democratic chair, put out a statement that says the following: just when you think Senator Carnes can't get any sleazier, he finds a new way to shock and discuss. Earlier this year, Carnes argued against allowing exemptions to West Virginia's abortion ban for rape and incest victims because he believes child rape victims often romanticize their adult abusers. Now he suggests that forcible sexual contact in marriage is just a benefit to being married. I'm afraid to think of what he'll say next. That comes from the West Virginia Democratic Party chair, Mike Pushkin. So I want you to see that debate. You want to see those discussions, because sunlight is the best disinfectant to these things. And I mean, to me, it's a horrific view that the Republicans in the West Virginia Senate are fighting for a husband, that's who they're fighting for, to engage in forcible sexual contact, unwanted contact with a wife. I mean, that is something that they are actively pushing for, to not remove that from the statute. We'll keep you updated on what's going on there. I think it's important that we focus on, don't let those issues just disappear. That's why we cover it here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm Ben Meiselas. Hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. And in addition, consider becoming a patron of the MeidasTouch Network. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We're not funded by any outside investors at all. None of the millionaire or billionaire outside investors who fund the both sides media fund us. We're 100% crowdsourced. We appreciate your support if you can. You'll love the exclusive content, but no matter where you are, most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Until next time.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.